Hello and thank you for joining us on Newsweek, where we highlight some of the biggest stories that made the headlines recently. I am Mark Otabo. This week, Rivers Police Command takes over 23 local government areas of Rivers State. And also, Kano State government insists Sanusi remains emir despite court order. Later on the show, Lagos State links cholera outbreak to unregistered tiger nut drink in circulation. And all the details in a moment. Stay with us. Now, this week, drama in Rivers State continued. The police took over 23 local council secretariats and some critical government infrastructure in Rivers State. The police said the action was to forestall further bloodbath and breakdown of law and order due to the increasing crisis over the tenure of the outgoing local government chairman. This was after chaos descended on the state after Governor Siminalayi Fubara directed heads of administration in the local government areas of the state to assume leadership of the local councils. Fubara had given the directive in a statewide broadcast in Port Harcourt on Tuesday following the expiration of the tenure of the 23 chairpersons of the councils at midnight on Monday. Meanwhile, the 23 outgone chairpersons who were believed to be loyal to former Governor Yusuf Wike had vowed to remain in office, citing a law enacted by 27 pro-Wike lawmakers extending their tenure by 6 months. There was palpable fear in the state as some angry youths reportedly stormed some out of the local council secretariats, calling for the ousting of the council chairpersons. Now, this led to the takeover by security personnel. Now, to discuss this with us is, of course, I have Supriala Membre, policy analyst right here in the studio with me. Good to have you on the show.
Nice to be here.
I always have issues, running through your name with my jaw sometimes. All right, I also have Samson Joshua. He's a social commentator. He's joining us via Zoom. Samson, good to have you on the show this evening.
Good evening. Nice to be here.
All right, and also standing by to actually have an extended discussion on this, I have Obi Ndukwe. She's a publisher of the Beam newspaper. Obi, good to have you this evening on the show.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much.
Now, Obi, let me start with you quickly. Now, what is your perspective on the new turn in the crisis plaguing Rivers State at the moment?
Well, my perspective is that, well, the police acted swiftly because we probably would have seen something worse than what we already had, the death of a policeman and then a member of the vigilante and another young man somewhere in Ahoda, because the two groups were prepared for a showdown. I think the police acted swiftly, but again, the question is, couldn't this thing have been avoided? The tenure of the local government chairman was supposed to end on the 17th of June, and the law is very clear on what to do. So the actors should have known, even the governor ought to have known that the proper thing would have been to conduct elections. It's not like Rivers State is at war, or there's any political issue that would have stopped him from conducting elections. And the law is very clear. If 3 months to the expiration of their tenure, that election would have been conducted, and all these things would have been averted. After all, they know how they've been doing it. So I don't think it could have been a problem if the law was followed to the letter. Now, a situation where the assembly didn't want to stand aloof, because actually, if you look at it, the assembly is the one saddled with the responsibility for making laws, particularly with the local government administration. It's there, it's spelled out in the Constitution. And then seeing that the governor probably was not ready to conduct election, or put it, the RISEC was not ready to conduct election, because we never heard anything from the RISEC, the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission, throughout this period, before the expiration of the tenure of the chairman. So what did the assembly have to do? They probably, in their wisdom, borrowed the letters of the Constitution on the role of the president and National Assembly in a situation where elections cannot take place, and then decided to give the sitting chairman 6 months, additional 6 months, no more than 6 months, to see if the governor would probably conduct the elections. And since that probably didn't go well with the governor, and then he also decided, to set up a caretaker. And then this is where we are. We are in a serious dilemma, a constitutional crisis, in the sense that even the caretaker, setting up of the caretaker committee is unconstitutional. In fact, the Supreme Court had long decided on that matter. It's not a matter for anyone. It's just that I don't understand why so many governors still continue to practice it. Maybe after the case that is before the Supreme Court right now, we'll see whether that will, will be implemented. Maybe by the time the federal government begins to withhold the funds, the allocations, and that is if it goes in the way of the federal government to pay directly to the local government, probably all that, the issue of caretaker will be handled. So a situation where the assembly decided to move in to forestall this crisis. Apparently, they saw this coming and then decided to make that law. Now, it is for people who are saying it is unconstitutional for them to have extended. The court in Port Harcourt had actually said that Martin Amehule Assembly ought not to have extended. They didn't talk against the other amendments, in the laws of the state. It was only that one they found, the court said, no, they shouldn't have done that, which means that it's still a matter before the appeal court anyway. We'll find out. Now, the question is, if the Amehule group, the assembly, didn't make that extension, and then it's also not constitutional for heads of local governments and caretaker to run the councils. So what would have happened? That means the local government would have been left porous without any administration. Of course, that's a very important tier of government, the grassroots. So you couldn't have left it like that. So I think that what they could have done is to find a way to, come to terms and agree on something. There's no way the governor can work without the assembly. It doesn't work like that. It will not work. Right. So let's see how it goes. Probably this week we'll hear from the appeal court.
All right, Obi, thank you very much. That was quite extensive, all right? We just might have to stay with the ambience of time. Thank you very much. But let me get my quick thoughts from Samson Joshua. Samson, if you're actually listening to me quickly. Now, there are arguments. I'm going to take a cue from what Obi just said not too long ago, that the local government should be governed by elected council chairmen, and that since the governor refused to conduct a local government election and the House, actually decided that they should extend their tenure, I mean, what do you think of this opinion? I mean, is this any of their fault anyway? After all, the local government elections didn't hold.
Yes, constitutionally, as Mobi said, the elections should have held 3 months to the expiration of the tenures of the local government, outgoing local government chairman. And but as it is right now, their tenures have expired June 17th, and there's a caretaker in place. And now with the caretaker government, where the Supreme Court has formally ruled on that it's unconstitutional, but the governor, in his wisdom of running the affairs of the state, has put in a local government caretaker committee, according to the local government, and RESEC too has also called for a meeting to kickstart the elections according to the local government. Okay. Now, coming to the Martins group of the extension of tenures, it's illegal, as the court in Port Harcourt has ruled. And secondly, the Martins group are no longer members of the Rivers State House of Assembly, as their seats have been declared vacant through the former speaker, backed by a court order, here Edison, when they cross-carpeted to the APC, their seats were declared vacant. So whatever stance and whatever directive they're taking is automatically null and void according to the law and where we stand right now. So Rivers State is in a dilemma, in a constitutional crisis. Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Now, Supriya Membre, very quickly now, Nigeria has been a country where politics thrive on individual interests rather than the interests of the electorate. Now, what can be done for us to return to status quo, where the interest of the people becomes king?
Well, it's a tricky question, but the truth is, at the end of the day, the leaders have to take into consideration that they are there to serve the people and not themselves, or not to further their personal or private interest. Now we are in this constitutional crisis because illegality has happened for far too long. Okay. Everybody is saying the governor ought to have conducted elections before the end of the local government tenure. But at the end of the day, how many governors do that? We've continued this caretaker, unconstitutional caretaker back and forth system. And again, one notion I would like to establish is the fact that an House of Assembly cannot make a law that contravenes the grand norm of the country, which is Section 9, subsection 1. There is no room for tenure extension.
Okay.
Yes, the state government, or I won't say the state government, the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission ought to have conducted an election, and they have not. But the process for the conduct of that election has started, right? Nature abhors vacuum. But you cannot let those local government chairmen stay beyond their tenure, because it defeats the oath of office they took, which is contained in number 5 of the Rivers State law of number 5, which creates a template for law of number 5 of 2018, which creates a template for tenures of local government chairmen and councillors. And again, you know, at the end of the day, if you look at it, there was a court order by Justice DGQ, which has not been vacated. That court order deals specifically, it deals specifically with tenure extension. The local government chairman would have approached an appeal court, maybe for want of time, take stay of execution of that judgment first, right, to prevent them from vacating office. They didn't. So the governor himself acted based on that, yes, on that judgment, that there was a judgment saying you cannot extend their tenure. You understand? Status quo, because he talked about status quo was about the assembly. But this high court specifically made mention of the tenure extension of the local government chairman, that it was illegal and unconstitutional. And any law that goes in adherence to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is null and void.
Null and void. All right, then. We have to take a time out now, and Newsweek continues in a moment. Stay with us.